CBS presents this program in color.
Good evening and welcome, everybody. I'm Kirk Herbstreit along with Brent Musburger.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
I had a great football weekend, I have to say. I just had a beautiful time. Beautiful time.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, that Browns-Bengals game must have just been blissful.
Well, it was funny because they showed Hue on the sidelines, I don't know, every fourth shot there he would be standing there with that stupid look on his face. And I thought, boy, it's a good thing they brought him back because if not, the Browns might score 70 or something. I don't know. He really didn't do a whole lot of good.
Yeah. What is he doing exactly?
I guess he's helping with the defense. I don't know.
he's helping the defense.
I did find out, too, that he is getting paid by the Bengals. It's $250,000 for the season, and that just comes off his Browns money. So the Browns, I think, own $4 million this year, so they have to pay him $3.75. And the other $250 comes from the Bengals. And he's allowed to do that until his Browns contract expires. So, why not, I suppose? I mean, he's not losing a dime doing it. But
again, if I were him, I would have just gone home and just been like, I'm on contract for like 2 more years. I
just so enjoyed my Cleveland Browns and little Baker Mayfield just shredding that Cincinnati defense in the first half. And, and then the second half, they just kind of sat back and let Cincinnati make these long drives just to kill time and stuff. It was never really ever close, and it was just fun. But that doesn't even compare to the fun I had on Saturday with Jim Harbaugh and the mighty Michigan Wolverines. Wow.
Oh, good time.
Yeah, this was a great football weekend for me. I don't even care that the Packers are terrible now. So what? That was bound to happen. But the Browns and Packers have identical records right now, and I don't remember the last time that happened. It had to be in the 70s, I would think.
Identical records with a tie, no less.
Yeah, but where they're both at the exact same spot. What is it, 11 games into the season now? Mm-hmm. It's been a very, very long time because the Packers were good for a long time and the Browns weren't, and I just don't know if there was ever a point. Like I said, you probably have to go back to the 70s or 80s to find out when that last time that happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, hey, with back-to-back wins for the Browns, they're officially on the In the Hunt graphic.
Yeah, how about that?
Oh, look at that!
And when they put those up during the games now,
the exclusive In the Hunt graphic.
What did you guys think of Demarius Russell and the interception and tossing the ball to Hue?
I thought it was great.
I thought that cracked me up.
Perfect. I mean,
cracked me up.
It happened. It worked out great that he was right where Hue was.
Right.
And then the best part about Hue, just to show how out of touch he is with the whole thing, he gets the ball. And he taps him on the helmet like, "Hey, good job." Yeah. He takes the ball first off. Like, why would you do that, Hugh? When he offers it to him, then just pats him on the head. And then in the post game, Baker Mayfield's doing all his handshakes, and Hue Jackson makes a beeline to go try to talk to Baker.
Right.
And Baker's trying to stay as far away from him as he can, but he eventually can't get away from him. So he just extends his hand for a handshake, and you can see Hue because Baker's giving everybody else daps, going in doing the handshake to the hug thing, and then you see Hue come in, and Hue kind of makes that lean hey, we're gonna do and Baker's still
nope, as
far as he can extend his arm, just yeah, good, thanks, all right.
Yeah, and Mayfield addressed that after the game. He said, "Look, I just didn't feel like talking to him." He was, and what's funny is one of those idiot. Shouting, screaming sports shows that are on. I don't even know what station this at this point, but they said this shows you how immature Baker Mayfield is and that he needs to grow up and blah blah blah. Because he said, I don't want to talk to the guy. He left our team and 2 weeks later he was with the rival, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And these guys were like, he needs to grow up and this and that. Well, then these same people be complaining because the players don't take rivalry seriously enough. Yeah. So you can't have it both ways. And I didn't have a problem with any of it.
My point wasn't even bringing up Baker because I thought Baker did the right thing. It was more Hue just like, hey man, what's up?
Yeah, he just doesn't get it.
He just doesn't understand.
No.
Like, and I think it's shown that this Browns team has like. You saw a lot of potential at the start of the season, and then as Hue Jackson kind of did his thing, like the life drained from them. And like you said, Greg, after my Chargers thumped them, you were like, I just saw my Browns regress to last season.
Yeah.
But like since Jackson's been gone, you've kind of seen that spark return to them, right?
I think they've finally gotten back to where they were. Probably after they beat the Jets and the Ravens there in that stretch where you could see the potentials there. I mean, again, yeah, they're in the playoff hunt and anything can happen, but I'm not sitting here going, boy, if the right things go the right way, they could make the playoffs. That's probably
but they're
really
on the in the hunt graphic.
But I mean, really, considering where they've been for the last however many years, that's great.
Well, honestly, if things had gone the right way this season, like. They're what? 4-6-1?
Yeah.
All right. Take out the one, the tie to the Steelers, make that 5-6. Let's take the Raiders game they lost in overtime, make that 6-5.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can take
goes at that point.
Then you take the dumb Buccaneers game,
right?
And make it. They should be 7-4.
Yeah, and another thing,
and they wouldn't just be in the hunt or even in a wild card. They'd be fighting the damn Steelers for the division at that point.
Yeah, and one of the things that people have kind of forgotten is that with the Saints juggernaut, the Browns played them really tough.
Yeah,
down there.
Yeah, it was week 2, but yeah,
they still played them tough. But it was again just a great football weekend for me. It's nice to see what looks like a real NFL team again in those not those uniforms, but. Those approximations of Browns uniforms.
I don't recall the '80s Browns team sporting the contrasting stitching to show off.
Might have made the difference, Mike. It might have made the difference in those 2 games against Denver. You never know.
Well, but in looking at the way the Browns finish off the season here, they get a bye. They already have their bye.
They just came off their bye. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they go to Houston this next week.
Right. That's going to be a tough one.
Tough, but winnable if they play well.
Right.
They host the Panthers, who, maybe not. Who knows what the hell the Panthers are?
Much.
They play at Denver. Probably tough just because it's a road game. Then they host the Bengals again later in the year. And then they play at Baltimore. So they'll be on that in the hunt graphic probably until, at least week 15, 16.
Yeah, which is great. But before we get into all the stuff that's just recently happened, I want to go back to the game of the century last Monday.
Oh, yes, of course.
And the Rams-Chiefs. And because what a lot of people were saying, and what a game that was. I mean, you talk about living up to the hype.
Amazing.
Like, I joked to a friend of mine that's the game where afterwards you need a cigarette.
Yeah, right. You sure do. Everyone's calling that the future of the NFL. That's what the future NFL is going to look like. So my question to you guys, are you okay with that? With 51 or 54, 51 scores and all that? With the like when 2 great teams get together and that's what it's going to be?
I don't think that's the future of the NFL.
A lot of people are saying that's what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, no, and people say that about these sorts of games all the time. And I don't think that's
2 high-powered offenses, honestly.
Yeah. I don't think that's borne out to be true when people have said that of games in the past either.
Remember when Michael Vick was the future of the NFL? Just saying.
Yeah, that's true.
You get these things that are these amazing spectacles of football and what it can be when played at the highest level. You're not going to get an entire league of Chiefs and Rams offenses.
No, we've already seen that. We've already seen that. I mean, even the Saints yesterday were only put up 31, I think.
Yeah, and this whole thing is cyclical because now you're going to see these teams that all have these giant offenses, and some teams are going to come in and try to do it, and they won't be able to. And they'll say, well, how can we fight these teams with these giant offenses? Well, we got to find some way to keep up with them on defense. And then you have that constant push and pull that we've had, for generations.
But that's where my question comes in, though. With the defensive rules being the way they are, I don't know how you combat this. And again, I'm with you. I don't think it's going to become where every game's going to be 54-51. At least I hope not, because it's cool when two great teams do it. And boy, we saw two great teams that night, but you don't want everybody doing that. But
Yeah.
I don't see how the defenses catch up with this, is what I'm saying.
I think with the way the defenses catch up is you just get different athletes to play different positions.
Yeah.
Like you start playing guys that would be like a corner. You play them at linebacker, and get some speed on the field.
Right.
And then I think it also goes to the rise of the power of the down lineman, as we've seen with guys like Aaron Donald in that game, J.J. Watt, defensive ends that are going to be able to blitz the quarterback and put pressure on them and make them mess up, essentially.
Well, that's the thing, too. People said there was no defense in that game. I mean, if the Rams don't get those two
Rams scored three defensive touchdowns.
The 21 points of the Rams' final score were on defense. So you take away those 21 points and they lose that game.
The Chiefs scored defensive touchdown. There were interceptions in that game. But that was just two offenses that can pop off at any second, trading possessions all night.
Well, and you look at those teams, too. I mean, how many teams have an elite quarterback, an elite running back, and a great receiving core on offense?
Yeah.
Right now, there's three. You've got the Saints, the Chiefs, and the Rams. Those are the three teams that have that.
And the difference between the Chiefs and the Rams and the Saints is the Chiefs and the Rams are both doing it with quarterbacks on their entry-level deals, and you're able to spend that money elsewhere. It's amazing that the Saints can still put up the offense they can because of Drew Brees.
Right.
But the Rams and Chiefs will both have the same way that teams like the Seahawks had, where you'll have a reckoning when you have to start paying some people. So, I mean, the time is now for these two teams. And if things go as they look with the rest of the league, these teams could trip up because maybe they don't play enough defense, for a playoff game. But these are two teams that if you said that, this is going to be the Super Bowl again, I'd put, a hefty sum on that being the case.
The only thing that would worry me with the NFC teams, and we've talked about this, and it's almost impossible that it would happen, that they would have to go out and play in the cold in January, but that's just not going to happen with them.
No.
The Chiefs, if they get home field advantage, you could see that could adversely affect them. And that's where I think a team like the Chargers, who are a little more balanced, could come in and throw a wrench in the whole thing. Or, of course, the Patriots are always there in that mix, too, because they play outdoors in the cold and they're used to it. But so does Kansas City. But in the NFC, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, Bears, but you're not going to get any kind of home field advantage, and you have to go on the road and play any of these teams. Forget it. It's just going to be brutal to watch.
Mm-hmm. No, and as good as that Bears defense is, the offense just does not have enough.
No.
The defense might limit it. You hold the Rams to 35 points, let's say, but or even 28. The Bears offense isn't putting up more than 28 points. They're not putting up more than 21 points on their own.
Yeah. It was the game completely lived up to all the hype. It was just I don't know. I was just sitting there going, I don't. Do
you think we would have got the same game had it been played in Mexico?
No.
No, I don't. I think a big part of it, and again, I can't say how much of this affected play on the field, but a big part of that game, I think, was that rocking atmosphere in LA.
No.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I just don't see. I mean, I don't think you do, because both teams are in unfamiliar surroundings and out of the country. It's just a whole different animal. And even though the Chiefs are on the road, they were in Los Angeles, they were still in the United States. There's no foreign culture thing to deal with or whatever. And I don't think it's anywhere near as good if it's not in LA. And I'm really glad it got moved back to LA. It was just an amazing show of everything both these teams are capable of. We got to see it and then some. And you just go, if there was ever a game where the old cliche, it's a shame someone had to lose, applies, it was that game. And I'm sure you're happy that the Chiefs lost, Zach, and the Rams won. But for those of us that didn't have that much of a stake in it, it was just a shame that somebody had to lose because they both played so great.
Yeah, it was fun as hell.
And how do we follow up that on the Monday Night Football schedule? Titans, Texans.
Yeah, all right, right. Titans would be lucky they can find their way out of the locker room, let alone score some points.
Oh God! But yeah, no, that was a great football game on Monday. Legitimately one of, and it held up. It held up to the hype, and apparently, again, I first saw the story in relation to this game, but apparently it is a trend that Monday Night Football ratings are up across how football ratings in general are up across the board compared to last year. So that whole "is the NFL dying" conversation that we had to have last year turns out that no, it's fine.
I heard them put this forth on the Bill Simmons podcast that they think that what's going on is that the NFL is putting the good games at night and leaving Sundays for like the fantasy players and all that. Which, if you kind of look at the schedule, you go, that sort of makes sense. Because I can't remember a year where there's been this many Thursday night games that I was interested in that were actually good matchups. And Monday night's been good. Sunday night's been off the charts good. I mean, last night should have been a great matchup, but it wasn't. I forget who was last week, but they've all been coming
Last
through.
week was Bears-Vikings. Last week.
Yeah. Vikings were on Sunday Night Football 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, it's going to happen to the Rams here in a couple weeks.
Wow.
They're, yeah. Well, they might move the Eagles game out because of where the Eagles are now, but.
Yeah, that's a little surprising too, kind of.
I mean, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. It's just funny, you know, we talked at the beginning of the season about teams that we liked, teams we didn't like, who we thought was going to do this and that. And if you look, it's pretty much the same cast of characters it always is right now. You know, with the exception, I mean, I don't think anybody saw the Rams. I mean, we all thought the Rams would be good, but for them to be
I admit I'm surprised by the Chiefs. I didn't think that they'd be as good as they are.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but we thought they'd be good.
We thought they'd be contenders, though.
Yeah. I will say that, and I thought it was surprising on that Monday night game where, you know, we were under 2 minutes to go and Andy Reid still had all of his timeouts.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
Well, because again, I've told you guys this before. This is the Rams' one flaw: is Sean McVay may have Andy Reid disease, not necessarily in not being able to manage his timeouts, but or I don't even know if you call this Andy Reid disease. Maybe you call it like Kyle Shanahan disease, of the same thing that happened to the Falcons when they lost the Super Bowl, where you keep trying to throw deep late instead of just killing the damn clock.
Like you have the lead and you have the ball, just to kill the clock.
You have the lead, you have the ball, you have the best running back in all of football. Why don't you just let him run it? And he seemed, you know, he said after the game, no, he's not using him as a decoy. But it's like, it can't help but seem that way when you have the ball at your own, like 18 or whatever it was, and you're throwing it 3 times when you're up by a score with 3 minutes left.
Well, see, that's the thing.
How are you doing?
You know, some teams get criticized for doing nothing but running when they get a lead. You've got to find a proper mix. And
sure, you can find a balance, but to go away from the run completely,
right? You can't just avoid it or just completely toss it out in the trash, and you can't do with the same thing with passing. I mean, you've got to be able to mix it up, and that's how you keep the ball. And
but at that point in the game, the first down play should be a run up the middle every damn time, right? To at least get the clock rolling the right direction,
right?
Because you throw the ball 3, the first pass was an incomplete, the second pass was an incomplete, and then the third one's a short completion for like 3 yards. And it's like, all right, cool. You wasted 45 seconds. They still have 3 timeouts. They didn't have to burn any of them because now they're getting the ball back, and there they go. It didn't come back to hurt them because they were able to get pressure up front and force Mahomes to make an interception. But then they gave him the ball back because they kept throwing the stupid football, and he'd still had to make another interception to really end
right.
the game.
Against a team like the Chiefs, you can't screw around and leave them that much time to work with, and that was a shortcoming on the Rams' part.
McVay outsmarts himself a little bit at the end of games like that. He's good throughout the rest of the game, but when it's a tight game late, he kind of gets a little itchy.
Hey, you know, I'll take my chances with a guy like that. He can outsmart himself once in a while. I'll take him over the guy I used to have.
Yeah.
Who can't outsmart anybody.
And it's fine when you're 10-1, but my fear is like you go into the playoffs and you lose in the first round or your first game because you get a little twitchy, with 3 minutes to go.
See, I think though with McVay, just based on everything I've seen with him so far, he's a guy that'll figure it out. He'll go, hey, it's one of the reasons they lost to the Falcons last year. They were down late, and instead of getting something going, they abandoned the run in the second half, and they couldn't get anything moving ever again. Well, we'll see. I mean, I have faith in him. I think he'll straighten it out. I don't see him becoming tagged with this, with having Andy Reid syndrome, but it was a great game. It was just, we saw two of the best teams in the NFL. If anybody had any doubt, maybe you thought maybe the Chiefs were a little bit of an imposter because of who they play or whatever, we saw it all. And both those are two, along with the Saints, those three teams, and it's everybody else. And I don't see anybody on either side being able to hang with those guys and come playoff time.
Yeah, one of those three teams will win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty easy to say, because even if the Chiefs somehow trip up against the Patriots, I don't think the Patriots would beat the Saints. I don't think the Patriots would necessarily beat the Rams.
I mean, you say that now, but I mean,
True.
we all could be
I know,
being
I'm pretty sure I picked the Patriots to win the AFC because I'm doing it until they die. But
if you get Andy Reid and Bill Belichick in a close game, I don't care. I'm taking the Bill Belichick coach team every time.
You're thinking there too. Yeah, you know what? I am going to take the Chiefs out of that conversation. I think that the two best teams are the Saints and the Rams. The Chiefs could be, but they've got that X factor with Andy Reid and that whole thing where it could go off the rails fast and in a disastrous fashion if it does. It hasn't so far, but it could. I don't see that with the Rams and the Saints, especially the Saints. I mean, with Sean Payton, who's a great coach. And the thing that Drew Brees has over Mahomes or over Goff is that he's been around a long time and he's won a Super Bowl, so nothing's going to be surprising to him or new to him when it gets to that point. And, we'll see. Just a great game, though. I just didn't want to do the show without talking about it a little bit because we were off last week for the holiday and we didn't want to.
Oh, I was going to bring it up if neither of you guys were.
Yeah.
So,
did everybody have a good one?
Yeah.
Pretty normal.
I admit I'm not an OSU fan, but I got perverse pleasure out of watching Jim Harbaugh just utterly implode.
My brother, we were talking on Thanksgiving, and he goes, "I'm really worried about the game on Saturday." I said, "Why?" Because they're not, we're not as good as them, and Michigan's so good this year. I said, "Look, it's this simple. He is their version of John Cooper. He can't beat Ohio State. I don't care what else he does, he can't do it." And sure enough, he came out and just absolutely choked again.
Not only can he not beat Ohio State, but he's also he's only 500 against Michigan State.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a winning record against them either. So it's which is why when you start throwing shade at the Spartans after they beat them this year, I was like, Jim, calm the fuck down. It's not like this is a team you own.
There was my girlfriend posted something about Michigan, and this guy, I don't even know him, commented and said something about I can still make fun of Baker Mayfield planting the flag in the center of the field when you lost to Oklahoma last year. And it was two stupid things. I went, well, yeah, you can do that. And I'm just going to turn around and go, we were the national champions in 2014, and we've beaten you 14 out of 15 times. Your little thing doesn't really add up to mine. But if that makes you feel better, go right ahead. But
right.
I thought the Buckeyes had a good shot at winning, but Jesus, 61 points on the number one defense in the country. Something went wrong somewhere, right?
Yeah, well, late, middle of the third quarter, their best defensive player went off with an injury.
Yeah.
But still, it's such a weird thing to see teams have this mental roadblock against certain other teams. Especially when this is as good as Michigan has looked in quite some time. Even with Harbaugh.
It's the best Harbaugh. It's the best Harbaugh team that he's had since he's been there. And I remember
because they've been ranked highly before, but each and every time it was always they're just getting it because of name recognition. This is the first time to me that it felt like Michigan's legitimately good, not because they're Michigan, but because they're a good football team. And then they go into to Columbus and can't find their own feet. It's the strangest thing.
I lived the other side of this from whenever Cooper got hired until they got fired, where, I mean, I'm positive he cost that team at least 3 national championships because he couldn't beat Michigan. And the one year he did, he lost to Michigan State, so it didn't matter. And it's just, I feel for him. I know what they're going through. I've been on the other side of this. And he might be Jim Harbaugh. He might be a Michigan man. He might be all of that. But if this keeps happening, they will not keep him because it's embarrassing to them now. They've lost 14 of the last 15 to us. That's terrible.
Yeah.
It's just bad. And I thought the rest of the rivalry weekend was kind of, I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot to get excited about.
Well, as we've kind of talked about, the problem is there's not a whole lot to talk about in college football.
Is anybody going to beat Alabama this year? I mean, really?
No. I mean, like, people, there's all these arguments of who's going to be the 4th team in, should Notre Dame fall out because they're not a conference champion, all this stuff. And yeah, that's interesting to a point where it's like you realize you're only talking about the bottom or like the mid-tier teams, and nobody even bothers talking about Alabama because that's not fun. Because they know what's going to happen.
Who are the top 4 right now? I mean, we're obviously going to take Michigan out of that equation. I think they were 5th anyway, but
no, they were 4th.
Were they? Well, okay, that's done.
Yeah, let me pull up the last week's college football.
Because now the argument is, should it be Ohio State or Oklahoma? And
yeah, it's really between those two. So the college football playoff last Tuesday's rankings were Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3, Michigan 4, Georgia 5. You had Oklahoma at 6. Ohio State was 10. So now that, they go through another week, Alabama's not going to move. Clemson's not going to move. Notre Dame shouldn't move.
No, they won't. They shouldn't. I think they put together the resume. They deserve to be there.
Yeah. And now you have Georgia, who has to play Alabama in the SEC title game.
Right.
You have Oklahoma, who I think they're supposed to be playing. I got to check who this.
Texas.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay, so they'll have a chance to avenge the one loss they have on their schedule. LSU is at 3 losses. They don't deserve to be in the playoff.
They lose again?
They lost to Texas A&M in 7 overtime.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And LSU poured Gatorade on Ed Orgeron after the first overtime.
Whoops.
Washington State was at 8, and they lost the Apple Cup to Washington.
Okay,
so they're out of it. I think UCF is 11-0.
I'm telling you, here's what I think should happen. If UCF wins, and do they have to play a championship game?
Yeah, they're playing Memphis.
Okay, whatever. If UCF wins this game, all right, and they are undefeated, and let's assume Georgia loses to Alabama, which I think they will. I don't know how you keep UCF out at this point. I'm sorry. I know Ohio State and Oklahoma.
It's not going to happen, though.
But that's so wrong.
I know.
Ohio State lost to Purdue by like 40. I mean, you got to look at that and go, okay, would UCF have lost to Purdue by 40? Probably not. I'm just saying.
No, but the difference is Ohio State has wins over Penn State, who was ranked at the time.
Michigan.
They have the win over Michigan.
I think they beat
if
Michigan
they beat
State.
Northwestern's ranks. Michigan State wasn't ranked at the time, but you look at you say, okay, they lost by 29 to Purdue. They only beat Maryland nearly a week ago by a point.
Right.
And I don't think Ohio State should be in. I think if Oklahoma wins, they'll be the one that goes in.
I agree.
Because essentially that's them wiping out the one loss they have,
right? Which
was on a neutral site, and it was only by 3 points.
Okay, what happens, just for the sake of argument, what happens if Texas beats Oklahoma?
Well, Texas is down at 14, so they were last.
They're not going to hop up. They're with 3 losses. They're not hopping all the way up.
No, they're not going to jump all the way up there. If Oklahoma loses, then it's Ohio State.
But that's the thing, though. I think between the two, if you're going to go, I think UCF should get the nod over Ohio State. I do.
Well, I think, because, again, we're going off of last week's top 25. It depends on what the committee does with this week's rankings. Because here's the UCF was at 9. Washington State was ahead of them. Washington State lost. LSU was ahead of them. LSU lost. Michigan was ahead of all of them, and they lost. So do you move? That's 3 teams ahead of them. So in theory, if you're just pushing everybody up, then UCF would jump up to 6.
Mm-hmm.
But you have Ohio State, who was a spot behind them, who beat the number 4 team in the country. So they'll surely jump UCF.
Yeah, but the committee's not giving Ohio State a lot of respect this year either. So it could get very interesting. But I'm just saying that
speaking of respect in Ohio State, by the way, Gus Johnson's call of the game, a little too much respect for Urban Meyer in the game.
A little too much?
He called, this man's a legend, one of the greats of the game. Didn't even say one of the greats of the game. He said one of the greats. It's like,
did he
a little? You think it was just
did he get around to nominating him for the papacy?
Damn near.
like,
everybody was afterwards was like, he was trying to start the Urban Meyer redemption tour with that game. It's like, what are you doing, dude? You know? Yeah. It wasn't a little too much. It was like, I mean, he was this close to just like, kissing his balls, basically. It was like, for fuck's sake, guy.
Yeah. But yeah, so as far as the playoff goes, I think the top 3 are easily in, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame. And then it's just a matter of how far do you want to throw Oklahoma or Ohio State?
And again, does it really matter if we're talking about whoever's just going to end up getting curb stomped by Alabama?
Honestly,
because whoever gets in is going to be number 4, and that's who gets to play Alabama. Unless the only thing I could see them switching up to, appease themselves, I guess, is I could see a scenario where no matter who gets in as the 4th team, Notre Dame would end up being seeded 4th because they're the only one that didn't win their conference, and they have to, appease people saying, hey, what about conference championships? Oh, well, they didn't win the conference, so here, they're number 4.
Yeah, but you know what, though? There has been some sort of Notre Dame stipulation since the very first beginnings of the old BCS. And the BCS went through a few iterations before it became the one that this replaced. And, yeah, I know Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference and all that, but they're ranked number 3, and you've got no justification to move them at this point.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that they're going to be in there, but what I'm saying is
that's what I mean.
When they make the 4.
You got no justification to move them down, though, do you? I mean, for what reason? They're done, right? Or do they have another game left?
No, they're done. They're 12-0. And I'm not saying that they're going to be moved out of the playoff altogether.
You're talking about seeding, and I'm saying it's not even fair to do that to them.
Probably not, but if they wanted to, and they could sell that as, hey, it's a rematch of that national title game from a few years ago, and
that
then
was a disaster.
You mean that you mean that game that Alabama won handedly?
Yeah, wasn't it like 70-3 or something like that? It's horrible.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing is like
the Monte Teo game.
Yeah,
who do they move around here? Like Clemson Notre Dame is probably a pretty decent game. But Alabama, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State.
All I can say about that is Ohio State did it in 2014. So you never know. Stranger things have happened. But that Bama team wasn't the Death Star that this one is.
Yeah.
And this Ohio State team was not the team with Ezekiel Elliott and, we ain't here to play school, Cardell Jones, and that whole bunch. It's a whole different thing. So.
And the other. As nice as it would be to let UCF put its 20 at the time, it would be their 25 game win streak on the line against Alabama, and having the 2 defending national champions face off against each other. God, you could just see the trash talk coming from a mile away if that ever happened. But it wouldn't. Alabama would crush them. It wouldn't be worth it, I think.
No, you're right. I don't think UCF would stand a chance against Alabama, but that's not because they're a small school. It's because no one stands a chance against Alabama.
Right.
And it would be great. It would be great if they could pull a Boise State and get in there and actually do some damage, but they're not going to. I've watched the team play. They're good. I mean, there's no question about it. But
Alabama legitimately has two national championship quarterbacks on its roster.
Right. And the only team that I even see in that whole list that I think has a legitimate shot at beating Alabama is Clemson. That's it. And I'm not so sure about that. You know what I mean? That's the point.
Imagine if UCF got in.
I think it'd be great.
And they brought the civil conflict trophy with them.
Well, they'd have to find it first.
They'd have to go out to the boonies around Orlando and find the redneck who's using it to prop up the car on their lawn.
Right. They would put out a thing on ESPN like, if anybody could find the civil conflict trophy, we'd like to bring it to the game. I know. It seems unfair that they're not going to get a shot because I think they do deserve it. But you're right, Zach. Alabama would curb stomp these guys. It would be such a waste of time because look, they may be better than Ohio State. I don't know, but Ohio State's got their top flight program, et cetera, and Alabama would curb stomp them. They're going to curb stomp Oklahoma. It doesn't matter who they put in that slot. That's what's going to happen. Well, and Michigan should be happy. They don't have to deal with that now.
And honestly, I don't even think compared to some of the other smaller schools that we've had try to break into this thing, I think the only this UCF team does not rank up with some of those other teams. Like, this isn't like when Boise State finished number 2 after the bowls one year. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember that Boise State team was like, no, that if there was any team that should have been given a legitimate shot, it was one of them. Maybe one of those Utah teams from the pre-Pac-12 days.
Right.
But UCF it's a fine program. They've done great things over the last 2 years, but
show me their signature win over a top tier school.
Right. So that's the argument against them right now, is that the only win of any sort of rapport on their schedule is they beat Pittsburgh when they were ranked 24 this year.
That's not enough. Pittsburgh is one of those teams that they're worse than the Titans. It's like the minute you decide, hey, I'm going to root for Pittsburgh, they will screw you every single time. Yeah, I was watching them play Miami on Saturday, and because I like Pitt, especially when they wear their old uniforms or like something, a variation of it, and they were. I'm like, all right, Pitt, Miami, this will be good. Forget it.
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, Pitt is the school that gave us the legendary, the immortal Nathan Peterman.
God, no wonder. That'll teach me, right? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And I'll tell you this too: don't sleep on Northwestern. I mean, they're not way up there in the rankings, but they can beat Ohio State. They run the right kind of offense that gives Ohio State trouble. So Ohio State might think that getting past Michigan put them on the fast track to the playoff, but you still got a game to play yet, and there's no guarantee you're going to win this game. I didn't know that they're not going to win the national championship, and I'd really just assume not even make the playoff. All I wanted to do was just fuck Michigan's season, and that's what we did. To me, that was the whole point of the exercise. Just screw them out of whatever they were going to get. Shall we pick up with the slate of football with the Thanksgiving games and forward through the weekend?
Sure.
Some pretty interesting stuff happened, I think.
Yeah. The Bears won. Defense, pulled them out at the end. They were able to win the game with Chase Daniel at quarterback.
Yeah, did you guys even remember him still being in the league?
No, I think I had seen in preseason that he was the backup for the Bears. But
was he from Missouri? Is that where he went to school? I mean, I don't know why that matters to me, but that's what I thought.
Yeah, Missouri. He was the backup with the Chiefs for a long time.
He didn't play half bad. I mean, it wasn't great.
230, 2 TDs. But, yeah. I mean, again, with the Bears, that's all you really need to do is play half decent. But
I remember
especially against the Lions.
Watching that game after his second TD, whoever was calling that game with Tony Romo started comparing him to Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, calm down, guy.
Might want to tap the brakes a little on that comparison. Yeah.
He threw a touchdown against the Lions. Come on.
Yeah, now he's Drew Brees all of a sudden. Oh, speaking of announcers, the Awful Announcing came out with the rankings of the best to worst NFL announcing teams. If you guys want to get into that later, but yeah, I don't. None of the games on Sunday or on Thanksgiving were that exciting, really.
No, I mean, the Redskins Cowboys game was entertaining for a bit. Colt McCoy coming in, but. Yeah,
I will always be a bigger fan of Pony and Quarter Horse McCoy.
I mean, I was just
Mustang McCoy.
The dude's not good, but god damn it, he's got the best name.
Oh, isn't it?
He's got the best quarterback name.
Look, I remember Colt McCoy in college, and I thought he was okay in college. He was pretty decent. I never thought he was going to be an NFL player, really, and let alone an NFL player for as long as he's been in the league. I couldn't believe he was still the backup there.
He's been in the league like 10 years now, at least,
he's
right?
32 years old.
Yeah.
He played for the Browns in 2010.
Well, think about it, though. Is there a more appropriately named player for the Texas Longhorns than Colt McCoy?
No.
Colt McCoy, quarterback, University of Texas.
His brother played at Texas, too, and I think it was like Chase or Case McCoy or something like that.
I thought he had a horse name, too. Like
No.
No?
No, it was Colt. You just got Colt McCoy, Texas Longhorns.
That's what I mean, man. Like, he's just a gunslinger out there having fun. I mean, everything just works perfectly with this guy, Colt McCoy.
I mean, really, the Cowboys should trade Dak Prescott for Colt McCoy.
Right. Yeah, a guy was named Dak Prescott. He should be playing for a New England team.
Yeah.
Colt McCoy should definitely be the QB of the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely.
By the way, your first place, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
Okay, so now the media is going to be insufferable.
This division sucks.
Yes, it does.
Oh my God, does this division suck? I mean, you got the Skins and Cowboys at 6-5 each. The Eagles are what, 5-6, 4-7, something like that.
Yeah,
and the Giants are there, but the Giants only lost by 3 points to the Eagles on Sunday, and then you have the Cowboys and Redskins just duking it out on Thanksgiving Day.
People were actually talking because the Giants had won a game or something and showed a little momentum that they could play themselves back into this. And I thought, have you watched the Giants this year?
Odell Beckham basically saying we're going to win the rest of our games and we're going to make it in, and then they lose to the Eagles 2 weeks after that. So congrats.
Well, theoretically, they're 3-8. They could win all their games and they still could get in because this division is just such a disaster. It's not going to happen.
No,
but the Redskins, man, even when they were, what were they at their best? 5-3 or something like that.
Let me see.
Were they 5-2 at one point?
Or 5-2? We talked about it back then. This is what the Redskins are always going to be, that team that is going to keep bouncing around back and forth. And here they are. Might make the playoffs, might not. Right where they always are every year, every single year.
Yeah, they lost their last 2.
I don't know. I think that losing Alex Smith hurt them a lot. And
can we talk about that injury?
Oh my!
Oh
Jesus!
The similarities that somebody posted.
The Theismann,
33 years to the day. The exact
33
day.
years to the day. The same yard line and the same score of the game.
No kidding. I didn't know about all that.
Same injury.
Yeah.
Same injury with Theismann in attendance.
Yeah.
Well, we all have to are pretty much in agreement that Alex Smith's probably done after that, right?
I mean, I think this is beyond Alex Smith. I think this is confirmation that the Illuminati is real.
Yeah, really.
I said it to myself. But yeah, just incredible. The coincidence on that one, but. He's up there in age, but he was fine for the Redskins, right?
Yeah, I mean he was. That's the thing.
He's the same quarterback he's ever been.
But Theismann never came back from that injury, and I don't think the Smith will either. I mean, Jesus, man, they broke his leg clean in two. You know?
Well, and especially with the lower part of the leg, when you have 2 bones that you're taking care of there.
Yeah.
It's not you're breaking your upper bone, your femur. It's to have 2 bones that you have to reset and heal, and it's a lot.
I'd take my money and go home if I'm him. He's made plenty, and I'm sure he's got more than enough to retire comfortably. I'd just be like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not coming back for any more of this, because I didn't watch the injury, but I heard it was one of those that you don't want to see it, and I don't want to see it.
It was one of those where you saw the leg flop around a little bit, and you're just like, yep. I
saw the Theismann.
That is broke.
I was watching the game when the Theismann one happened, and I went, did that leg just do what it looks like it did? And they showed the replay. I'm like, oh, my God. And the way, did the players freak out like they did with Theismann, where they're all like, Brown, here, get out here quick, this is bad? And
no, because it's not like it turned around or anything, but you could see like in the replay that it wasn't a one solid mass anymore.
Oh, my.
But yeah, going forward for the Cowboys, they They play against New Orleans on Thursday, so that'll be a hit. But their schedule the rest of the way is Philly, Indianapolis, Tampa Bay, and the Giants.
They could go undefeated.
They're not beating my Colts. No way.
Really?
My new irrational. No, wait. Zach took the irrational confidence for the Colts, but
yeah.
I told her those guys were good, man.
Really, the team that could dethrone
they
this
beat
is
Miami. Come on, let's not start.
I'm just saying that they again, you got everything's relative. They are going to be in the playoff hunt. They're not as bad as people thought they were. And Andrew Luck hasn't been sacked in 3 games?
Oh, look at that!
Yeah. That's good for them. That's really good.
Imagine how your elite quarterback can actually do things when he's allowed to pass the ball.
If he's upright, he's pretty good. If he's not laying flat on his back, counting the windows and the roof at the Lucas Oil Stadium there. Anyway, Zach, I'm sorry. Where were we?
Well, with that division, I mean the Eagles are only 5-6, but either the Eagles or the Cowboys are taking this thing at this point because Washington's not going to do it with Colt McCoy. The Eagles get Washington twice, and then they play Dallas on the 9th. They also host the Texans and play at the Rams.
Ooh.
So the Cowboys are going to lose to the Saints this week, same way that the Eagles will probably lose to the Rams. So that's 1 game down for each of them.
Right.
I guess Philly would have to win the rest of the games outside of that, right? Because they would have to beat Dallas for sure to at least even up the standings. Because Dallas already beat Philly once this year. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I'm surprised to see the Eagles are 5-6. I thought they were worse than that.
Yeah,
they haven't looked good all season. And I just think it's a Super Bowl hangover. It's just one of those things where we've seen it happen before. And if you're not the Patriots or a team that's just been there a lot, this is what happens. And that's all it is. They got their Super Bowl, and they've been partying ever since.
Yep.
But the Redskins, I think with Alex Smith in there, I like their chances, but not now. They're done. Colts not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. The last game there on Thanksgiving was the Saints beating the Falcons.
Falcons are done too, right?
Oh, yeah. Way done. They're
4-7.
4-7. Yeah.
They should have blown it up after that Super Bowl loss.
It's funny because they made the playoffs last year, and you think maybe they're the team that can get around it. And no, they're not getting around it. Now they're 4-7. There's talk they're going to fire the coaching staff, and here we are. I thought they'd be better than this. I think I had them winning that division this year.
Yeah.
Over the Saints. Well, what are you going to do?
On to Sunday, where your Browns beat the Bengals. We touched on that a little bit already.
There was something else I wanted to say about that game, and I can't remember what it was now. That doesn't matter.
Yeah. Bucks blew out the 49ers. Both.
No, okay. With the Bucks,
teams lost causes.
Who quarterbacked this week? Was it Jameis Winston again?
Yes.
I did not even watch.
Yeah, it was Jameis.
Because I heard him talking on Sirius NFL radio. They had Jameis Winston, and I thought, why are they talking to him? He didn't play, but I guess he did.
312, 2 TDs.
What happened to Fitzmagic? Or are they using my plan where they're going to let him play every 3 games?
Well, the Magic run out on him again in less than a 3-game time period, so they went back to Jameis.
They keep going back. It's hilarious. This team will play one, and they'll have a decent game, and then they'll keep them. And then, as soon as there's, an off game, they switch again. And it's, probably it's that whole thing where you're probably – if you have 2 options for quarterback, you really don't have one.
Right.
The situation.
Well, that's what I was going to ask with the Bucks. If they had a consistent quarterback, I think they'd be better than this. I don't mean if they had a Jared Goff or Pat Mahomes, whatever, but just a guy that they could depend on week to week. I think they might be on more solid footing, which is a really obvious thing to say about any NFL team. But I don't think they're that bad talent-wise. I just think this quarterback thing screws them up. And they've got a bad coach, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Bucks.
The Buffalo Bills.
I called this game, by the way. I picked them to win in our weekly picks thread.
It's high times in the city of Buffalo. The Sabres are on an 8-game win streak.
The Sabres?
Yeah.
Really?
And the Bills have won back-to-back football games.
For the first time since
I don't know.
Probably last season.
Did
Josh Allen play for the Bills? Do we know?
Josh Allen did come back, 160 and a touchdown. He also ran for 99 yards and a touchdown. The Jaguars have lost 7 in a row.
Wow, that team's just so bad. I saw that.
Remember when they beat the Patriots?
They fired their offensive coordinator and benched Blake Bortles today.
Yeah, Cody Kessler coming in to be the starter.
Kessler, one of the names on the Browns quarterback jersey, just saying.
That Browns.
Can we get a Jaguars quarterback jersey going? That seems like it's something that's worthwhile.
I'm just saying that if you're going to guys that were on that Browns jersey, you're probably in more trouble than you're aware of.
Colt McCoy, Cody Kessler.
There's a few of them out there. Zeppo McCown.
Josh McCown, yeah.
But yeah, that's what I mean. If you're picking names off that jersey to play your quarterback for your team, then things probably aren't that great. Just saying.
God, the Jaguars, based on how they played in the AFC title game last year, and even based on the 3-1 start to this year, it seemed like they were going to be right back to where they were, and they were going to win the division pretty easily, and just kind of be one of those teams that might mess it up for somebody in the AFC playoffs. I don't know how that team goes from where they were a year ago to losing 7 in a row.
That was my question. What happened to these guys? Because
I honestly think, and you know what, I might get, maybe I'm just being hyperbolic. I don't think I am. I legitimately believe that last year they were frauds. I think. Everyone's like, oh, they made it to the AFC title game. They played, they almost beat the Patriots, and yeah, they did. But you can have a bad team can bullshit their way to one solid run.
Yeah,
that's not unheard of.
You see it all the time, actually.
And so, I honestly think it's a case where this team is just bad. I just think they're bad. I don't think they were ever particularly good. I said it last year after the AFC title game that Blake Bortles is not the QB that you are going to bank the future on. I think what we're seeing is closer to what the Jags are than what we saw last year.
Well, it's also a fact of that not only is the offense declined, certainly Blake Bortles just isn't good, and last year he fooled everyone, especially Jacksonville, until he's holding on to the idea that he could be. The defense isn't what it was, in particular, and that's the thing, that you could grind out games with Bortles being a game manager and running the ball and all that sort of good stuff. When the defense is giving you as many opportunities as they were, or is shutting down the opposing team, when the defense is playing average, I don't even think that their defense has been particularly bad, just average, maybe a little below average, but that's not good enough to support the offense that they're trying to throw out there every week.
Or lack of offense that they're trying to put out there every week.
Right.
Well, hasn't Fournette been hurt all year, too, or on and off all year?
Yeah, well, now he's going to be suspended for a game after he tried to fight some dude in this game.
No, it's just interesting because, they were kicking the Patriots' ass last year in that AFC Championship game, and then they just went full Marty Schottenheimer.
They beat him this year.
And then they beat him this year. And all of a sudden you look at them and you go, they're just terrible. I'd put them down among the worst teams in the league, down there with the 49ers and the Cardinals and that group. I don't think they're very good at all. Yeah. And you just go, how did this happen? But I think Mike's got it right. It was just one of those weird years where they got a lot of breaks that went their way, and it happens, and the reality showed up this year, I guess.
Yeah. Joe Flacco might regret taking that injury a couple of weeks ago. Lamar Jackson has stepped in for back-to-back wins. What did he do this week? He threw for 178, a touchdown. He threw 2 interceptions, not great. He rushed for 71 yards and 11 carries a week after rushing for 119 yards on 26 carries. He also ran in for a touchdown this week. Is Lamar Jackson the future in Baltimore?
Look, the fact of the matter is that we don't know if Lamar Jackson is elite, but we do know that Joe Flacco is elite. And so I think that says all that you need to know.
And I think that Jackson
also is the Raiders, so you can.
Yeah, you got to take that into consideration. I forget who he beat last week.
Cincinnati.
Okay, so not exactly two juggernauts there.
It's not like he's beating like the Saints and the Rams back to back or anything.
But he does bring an element to that team that Flacco can't. He can run. I think if you got to decide if you're the Ravens, what do you want to do at this point? I mean, if you really want to make a playoff run, you're probably smarter sticking with the experienced quarterback. But I don't know if that experience is enough to overcome the deficiencies in Joe Flacco's game to get them to the playoffs. Or do you just go, we're all in on Lamar Jackson, whatever happens, happens? Me, I'm probably going Lamar Jackson. Yeah.
They're 6-5. I think they're in a wild card spot if things ended today.
Yeah, so I'm going with the kid. I mean, like I said, he brings something to the game that Flacco can't. And why not?
Yeah,
I'd go with him.
He gives them something.
Yeah. I mean, he's not just going to stand back there and throw the ball down the field like Flacco does. But then again, like Mike said, Joe Flacco is elite.
I mean, he is.
And the other thing that I've seen...
Just ask him.
The other thing I've seen with Jackson, a little bit that I've been able to watch, is that, yes, he's a running quarterback, but he knows he's smart about it.
Right.
You see a lot of these running quarterbacks that will try to get that extra yard. They'll take unnecessary contact. He'll come up a yard short just to get out of bounds, and live to see another play, sort of thing.
Right.
Like I think he understands that, like, if he wants to have any sort of long career, he can't be taking a bunch of hits like a lot of these running quarterbacks have. And he's shown that he can throw the ball. That was the thing that I had a concern with him going into the league, was being able to throw the ball, because I think he was a little careless in college. And even running the ball, it's like you got to be smart about it. You got to know not to get hit because everybody else is just as fast as you. Turns out he's still pretty damn fast, and he is smart about getting hit. So he's done well in 2 games. I don't know where they play next week, but all these games down the stretch are going to be tight because, again, it's one of the wild card spots is already taken up. I don't know if they're going to be catching the Steelers for the division lead, or maybe they will.
They are on the road in Atlanta next week.
Okay,
I'm playing Lamar Jackson in that game. I think he can beat the Atlanta Falcons.
And he's played plenty of games in that stadium as a college kid too. So,
and then after that, they've got at Kansas City and home for Tampa Bay.
I will say this about the Ravens: they need to take that color rush uniform and burn it.
Yes, they really do. There's a lot of. Oh my God! I mean, I don't.
A lot of bad looks.
I don't want to sidetrack this with this, but this is going to be probably the toughest week I've ever had in trying to put together best and worst lists.
There was a good amount of color rushes.
Yeah. Why?
You do have Green Bay, Minnesota to fall back on.
I got Green Bay, Minnesota looked good, and I think Washington, Dallas looks pretty good.
Washington, Dallas is always a good-looking game.
Minnesota or Chicago Bears, Lions wasn't bad, but nothing like really special. What was against uniform related? Denver. I wish Denver would put white pants with that color rush set. That's a gorgeous uniform if they do that.
It would be with white pants, yeah.
And a blue alternate jersey, and man, they are good to go.
Speaking of that game, can we talk about Big Ben's tremendous play?
Yes, let's.
Another game, by the way, I picked in the pick thread. I had the Broncos beating the Steelers.
I know that you are a urinating tree fan as well, Zach. So yes. I know you're looking forward to Days of Our Steelers this week.
Days of Our Steelers. Yes.
All right. I don't know this joke. What is it?
It's a YouTube channel, and he does a lot of basically sarcastic sports videos.
Okay.
And he's a Steelers fan, and with all the drama that they've had this year, every week, it was only going to be like a once in a while thing, but now it's become an every week segment where he does Days of Our Steelers, like it's a soap opera.
He's recently added Saxonville Abbey.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, very good stuff. But, okay, so Ben Roethlisberger throws for 462 yards in this game, and they score 17 points.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Well, I think the Broncos have a good defense. They're tough to play at home.
Okay, the Broncos have a good defense, but they don't have a good offense.
Case Keenum threw for 197 and 2 TDs. And Peyton Lindsey ran for 100, or Philip Lindsay, sorry, ran for 110 and 2 TDs.
If Pittsburgh is really going to be a contender in the AFC, then, if they can't even stop this Broncos offense, what chance do they have against the Patriots or the Chiefs?
They don't. That's the thing. It's I said earlier tonight that we're right back where we always are. And here are the Steelers again, where you look at them and you say, well, they've got a shot. No, they don't. They're the same old Steelers. They're going to win, 10, 11, 12 games. They're going to get in the playoffs, and somebody's going to smoke them. I don't know who they'll get in the first round, but it's the same old story with them. And they when they look good, but they don't have any consistency. And that's what you got to have.
If the playoffs started today, the Steelers would actually get the Ravens in the first round. Or no, the Steelers would get
Chargers.
No, they'd get the Ravens. I was right. They'd get the Ravens.
Look, as long as we're spared from Bengals Texans.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed though. I wanted Bengals
right now
Texans.
Texans Chargers
7.
you wanted Bengals Texans 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. But man, the Broncos, by the way, quietly, technically they're in the race. They're in the hunt, as you say. I don't know. It's so strange to see the Steelers play okay and then just not get anything to show for it.
I think the Broncos,
right. The same old Steelers,
and the Broncos are going to be the same old Broncos. They're going to be really tough at home. They'll get a road win or two that they probably shouldn't get, but I don't think they're a serious threat. They're still a quarterback away. And I tell you what, though, if they got a good quarterback, they could be one of those teams that makes a big leap fast, because I think they've got a lot of good pieces in place. They just don't have a good quarterback. Case Keenum's not the answer.
Well, that's the problem, is they spent a lot of money on Case Keenum.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why you would do that.
Because John Elway's kind of an idiot?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But how many truly great, like superstar players will end up becoming good executives? Not that many.
No.
Not that many.
I mean, honestly, I think there's just a lot of confirmation bias with Elway. I think we know that Elway likes his traditional quarterbacks. And I think he saw in Case Keenum, it's like, this is a good old boy. He knows how to play the position, had a good year. He's going to do a good job. And it's like, no, he's still Case Keenum. Like, he's still the guy who played for the Jeff Fisher Rams, right? Like,
well, he's the guy that you look at and you say, what has he done to warrant all this money? And who was he with last year? Was it the Vikings? He quarterbacked last year? Keenum was with the Vikings and Cousins was with the Redskins. That's right.
Right.
So, yeah, the Vikings had a great season in case Keenum was the quarterback and all that, but you can't – when the guy's been in the league for, say, 5-6 years, you can't take 1 year and go, okay, we're not going to count the other 4 where this guy was terrible. And that's what we saw happen. Elway looked at that 1 year that he was good with the Vikings and said, there's my guy. He can do it again. Well, as we've seen with Nick Foles and with Case Keenum, that's not necessarily the case. Rarely is that the case. I mean, there's guys going all the way back to like Scott Mitchell, who was Dan Marino's backup. He comes in, he has a couple of good games. Matt Flynn. We've seen it a million times. You got to be careful with stuff like that.
Matt Flynn is my hero.
Yeah, mine too.
1 day of hard work and set for life.
Here's what I know about Matt Flynn. He's got $1 gazillion in the bank. He's got a Super Bowl ring, and he can still walk and has all of his faculties about him. That's the way I look at him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, where are we at here?
Well, we're moving back down along. The team that just will not fucking die. The Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
They beat the Carolina Panthers 30-27.
I told you guys a couple weeks ago, the Seahawks are not going away.
Jesus Christ, Carolina.
Both teams are 6-5.
Carolina, you were supposed to. You couldn't even just do us all one solid.
Hey, but you know what? I want to point something out with the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that since they started wearing those stupid black uniforms, they haven't won a game? Just saying.
I mean, look, I'm just saying. At least my Chargers managed to put away the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So if the Seahawks lose,
so do the Rams.
If the Seahawks lose if the Seahawks end up on the outside of the playoffs looking in and they lose out by 1 game, then you're all welcome.
Yeah, the thing that it's more of an annoyance to me than anything else is that the Rams will clinch the division either with a win or a Seahawks loss, and they could have clinched the division, over a week of not playing. So right now the Seahawks, Redskins, and Panthers are all at 6-5. The Redskins, again, if the season were to end today, based on tiebreakers, would be the wild card, but that doesn't really matter. So really, the fight for that final spot, both the wild card spots are kind of tight, with the Vikings being 6-4-1. Vikings are 6-4-1, Redskins 6-5, Seahawks 6-5, Panthers 6-5, Eagles 5-6, and the Pack at 4-6-1.
We can scratch the Pack off. They're not going anywhere. They can't win a road game. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah, because then after that, I mean, you have Atlanta and everybody else, and I don't think there's anybody else worth talking about there.
But the Seahawks, they won't quit. I mean, hate them all you want, but you got to give them credit. I mean, they just simply will not die.
No.
And the
I think part of it too is just the rest of the NFC. Like,
yeah, but the Panthers were what, 7-3 at one point, or 6? They were doing really well. I forget what the record was.
They were 7-2, I believe.
7-2 and now
they're at 6-5. So
they're 6-2.
6-2.
6-2.
Yeah. They've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, and we talked about them a couple weeks ago. I said, I don't know what to make of these guys. I don't know if they're any good or not. And I still don't know. I'm beginning to think maybe they're not.
Yeah. Well, now you have the Seahawks winning 2 in a row to keep things tight.
Yeah.
The Panthers are strange. Sometimes some weeks are like, okay, they're putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Newton's finding it. Christian McCaffrey's been very effective for them this year. They're a fine team. And then they lose games like this one.
Yep.
To the Seahawks, who, I mean, Mike, you saw them play. I've seen them play. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're that good.
The Seahawks?
They're not.
No.
See, okay, here's the Seahawks aren't a good team, but what they are is they're not necessarily bad. They're like a lower middling team that you can dominate. They've got just enough talent to keep you from blowing them out, but then the end of the game comes and they're only like 2 touchdowns behind, and then Russell Wilson pulls some bullshit out of his ass, and suddenly it's like a tie game, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, he does. He is the master of those.
They're not good. They're just, I don't want to say they're lucky. They just hang around long enough for Russell Wilson to pull some voodoo.
Yeah, I mean, nothing better illustrates that than that game a couple of years ago against the Packers when he threw like I don't even know how you describe it, and it was just the luckiest damn play I'd ever seen in my life, and they got a 2-point conversion out of it. Yeah.
Look, I will say that they played the Rams kind of tight the 2 times they played them, but I think it's exactly what you say, Mike. It's not that they're not bad. They're not a bad team, but they're scrappy as hell.
Yep.
And that's why they're annoying. Mm-hmm. And they're just scrappy enough to win some, lose some. And this team's going to go down the other side at some point pretty soon.
You would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's really just, and as much as we all hate Russell Wilson, it's part of his gritty and gutty nature that he embodies what this team is. They're always just out of reach of somebody, right? Like the same way you look at Russell Wilson, you just can't drag him down no matter how many times you try, no matter how many fingertips you get on his jersey, you can't pull him down. It's the same thing with the damn Seahawks. They'll go down a couple times.
Well, you talked about it last week when you went to the game, how cathartic it was for them to actually get a hold of him and sack him.
Yeah, because they did for most of the game. Because it's the same thing where they're just ever so out of the way. And I'm watching part of the game and I watch the highlights of it, and it's some of the catches they make. It's like, okay, there's a Panthers guy covering him the entire way down the field, and then he's open just at the last second, just at the right time to make the catch. And it's like, if that ball comes down a half second earlier, that's nothing.
Well, they're scheduled the rest of the way out, just to give you an idea of what we're up against here. Home against the 49ers, home against the Vikings. Those are both winnable games. At the 49ers, home against the Chiefs, home against the Cardinals.
So really, it's the Chiefs and Vikings games that are the only trip-ups.
But you look at the Chiefs, I mean, going into, what is that, week 16?
Is that week 16 or is that week 15?
16, yeah. Because 17 is the final week of the season, right? Yeah, so week 16, the Chiefs might have it all wrapped up and have nothing to play for. Plus, they're going to Seattle, which is a tough place to play. all of a sudden you're looking at this Seahawks team. They might be 11-5. You just don't know. It's unbelievable. I mean, we had them buried for dead. They were done. That was it. It was over. They were at the point where we thought, okay, this is it. They cannot come back. And here they are. Drives you nuts.
The thing that drives me the most nuts about that, they're going to make the playoffs. And I guarantee you that's who the Rams are going to have to play in this damn second round. And I'm going to just be pulling my hair out for a whole week.
Yeah, you'll have no trouble with these guys.
Maybe. But at that point, if they win their final, 5 games, they'd be on a 7-game winning streak entering the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. There's a couple of those games in there that even though
they'll lose. Is that Minnesota game at home?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough, and that's the thing too, man. Seattle's like flying to a different part of the world to play football. It's not even like going to California.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the Vikings, that's the toughest one they have other than the Chiefs. But, the 2 tough games they have left are both at home. Their road games are ridiculously easy. Cardinals, they have 1 road game left against the 49ers. That's it. Everything else is at home. 3 of the last 4 are at home.
They'll screw up one of those 49er games.
It depends if our boy Nick Mullins can get it back together.
Well, here's the thing. Based on what I'm looking at with the standings, like the Redskins, they're right there at 6-5. They're going to fall out of the picture. Like they're not going to be a part of this thing at the end of it. The Eagles are a game behind all those teams, and they have 2 games left against Washington, so they'll be buoyed around just because that division is not good enough. And then it's basically just kind of between Seattle or Carolina. Which one do you believe in more?
Right now, Seattle.
Right.
Yeah. Carolina, they shouldn't be where they are right now. They're a better team than this. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if it's bad coaching or what, but they should not be. Well, they lost now 2 or 3 in a row. And they
Carolina 3 in a row.
Yeah, they shouldn't be in this spot at all, especially against the teams they play. There's no reason for them to be in this position.
And then, the Seahawks get in. I guess it depends on how far the Vikings fall. That Seattle Viking game is actually huge when it comes to seeding, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because, it depends on if Seattle plays at Chicago or at Dallas. And then that also plays into where they play at New Orleans or at L.A. in the next round. God, I hate that team. As much as I hated the Patriots over my time, growing up with the Colts, the Seahawks have quickly risen my ranks of.
See, I have no reason to hate them other than the fact that I just don't like Russell Wilson. I just don't like him.
To me, it's a combination of Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. Both of them can just fuck off and die.
Yeah, I'm with you there too.
That's harsh, but
Yeah.
What else we got left here on the slate?
The Patriots beat the Jets. No big deal.
Although we do need to talk about what Tom Brady did in that game.
What did Tom Brady do?
Hang on. He
cure a child of cancer?
He broke Peyton Manning's all-time passing yard record.
No,
really?
In that game, yes.
Well, he has a whole 2 extra years on him now, so. Great. Cool.
I thought Drew Brees held those records. Yeah, he'll get them eventually.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Let's see.
Mike, how about the Mike Bowl?
Yeah.
The Superchargers taking down the vaunted Arizona Cardinals.
Well, that it was funny that I think the Cards got out to an early lead in that, and then I think the Chargers tied it up at 10 and then reeled off 35 unanswered points, or maybe it was 45 unanswered.
I mean, it was exactly what needed to happen. It was exactly what had to happen after that Broncos game, where Zach rightly said to me, "There are 29 other teams in this league. Why do you torture yourself with this one?"
Right, because we didn't get to talk about that, where the Chargers lost a game by a point in a game where they had missed an extra point during it.
They lost it
on a game-expiring field goal kick by the other team.
Yeah.
Just a perfect Charger game.
Perfect against a division rival who, by all rights, they should beat, and it's just yeah. But no. I mean, it's the Cardinals, so I'm not going to be like ecstatic about it. You know, you put
pound your chest over it. Yeah.
Well, no, but you should be.
Put 45 on Arizona. I mean, on field is one thing, but I don't think they're winning the hearts and minds of LA, given the pick I sent you guys, which was. I mean, this is what happens when they play a team that doesn't have like a traveling fan base like the Cardinals don't.
Right.
And it was that was an embarrassing picture.
Look at the bright side, Mike. I mean, the Clippers only got a living room. You guys have a whole county.
Hey guys, before we go, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the most important football game that took place on Sunday. That the 106th Grey Cup.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Grey Cup.
It was an electric and extremely windy atmosphere in Edmonton, Alberta, Commonwealth Stadium. The 106th Grey Cup.
One of the esteemed venues of the Canadian Football League.
Mm-hmm. It was a rematch of the 104th Grey Cup between Calgary, the Stampeders, and the Ottawa Red Blacks.
My Ottawa Red Blacks, baby.
It was a tight contest. Early on, Calgary 7-0 lead after the first quarter. Don Jackson with a 21-yard pass. Let's see, 7-3. The Red Blacks got back into it. Another touchdown by the Stampeders, but.
The Red Blacks, though, managing...
Red Blacks cut it back to 14-11. Calgary took a 21-11 lead into halftime. And from there, it was easy sailing. Teams traded field goals in the third quarter. Field goal and a safety in the fourth.
I was going to say, your Red Blacks got a safety, Greg.
Did they get a rouge, though? That's the question.
No, they did not.
I was disappointed. No rouge in the game.
There were no rouge. There were no rouges in this game, although, unfortunately, your Red Blacks fell to the Calgary Stampeders. Mm-hmm. Both teams with pant ward marks.
You can thank the Cleveland Browns for this, right?
MVP was Bo Levi Mitchell, who I believe is the quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders. And the most valuable Canadian award this year goes to Lamar Durant, a wide receiver for the Calgary Stampeders.
There you go.
He caught a touchdown and also ran for 22 yards.
Nice. Well done. Well, congratulations to the Calgary Stampeders for your 2018 Grey Cup championship.
Oh, Canada.
All right, folks, on that note, we're going to call it a night. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube. And you can find us on Facebook. We will see you next week with more exciting sports stuff. Thanks for tuning in.
Later, guys.
Adios.